us for about 15 years or so. I used to go to a congregation in the Dallas area that was sponsoring the Bible College, and so our connection goes back then. He's visited several times. He has a passion for people, for the gospel, and for helping churches develop leadership and move forward. And so he has a ministry, Barnabas Ministry, that he uses to travel to encourage churches. He's gone several times to Papua New Guinea. That's been a focus of his in the past. He's been in other places as well. He's traveled quite a few places, encouraging the church, building up the church. He talks to people about Jesus and about their walk with God. And so he's here with us for the next couple of weeks. He's also connected with the ministry, the Next Gen Ministry, where Gina Norrid's father heads up, the Story of Redemption. I think he's the regional chairman for this area, for the South Pacific, Asia. Yeah. So he works with Gina's dad as well. And next week, Sunday morning Bible class, we'll be talking about the story of redemption, which is an evangelistic tool to teach people about Jesus. So, Sandy, thank you. Preach the word.
Thank you. It is good to be back here at Otomotai. It's been a minute. I was just talking a little earlier. I think it's been about 8 years since I was here. So if you were here within the last 8 years, you probably have never seen me before, and you've been blessed by not having to see me. But if you know me from the past, you know there's one thing I like to do, and that's talk, especially about God. Okay, I'm really happy to be here. I'm really pleased to see such a diverse mix of people. There are Americans in your presence this morning. There are also Filipinos, maganda gamaga. I love the fact that you have that here. And our song leader, I would say, Apkun Krap. Where did he go? Oh, there you go, Apkun Krap, brother. So there are so many neat things, but I'm really happy that the majority of people here seem to understand English, because out of the languages I know, that's the one I know the best, you know. So I'm really happy to be here with you. My wife said, please be sure to tell the people at Otomotai I send my love and my greetings. My wife is a servant. She's one of those people that goes behind the scenes and does a lot of stuff that people don't see. But right now she has a 92-year-old father and an 88-year-old mother who has Alzheimer's. And so she is giving daily care to her parents out of the love for Christ. And so, you know, God bless my wife for that. But that's why she's not with me this morning. It's not because she didn't want to be in my presence. It's because she's taking care of other people. Okay. This morning we have a great theme. We're home where we're challenged to grow. And I missed the clicker. Does someone have the clicker? Thank you. There's always a deacon in charge of audio visuals, right? Thank you. So, discipline. It's one of those things that I'm sure when you got up this morning, you were thinking, I hope we get a lesson about discipline this morning, right? Because that's what I really need. It's one of those. So, I wasn't supposed to, there you go. It's supposed to say, what fun, right? Because that's exactly the way we tend to think about discipline. Oh boy, what fun. Kind of like some people think of cross country, for example, right? So we're going to talk about discipline just a moment. Discipline and disciple actually are deeply related. They share the same Latin root word, and no, I'm not Latin, but I think it's something like discere. And what it means is it's a learner. So it says the meaning is a disciple is a learner who submits to a process of training, which is discipline. So you can kind of see how these two relate to one another. I'm really good at just going through things online and finding out maybe what AI or Siri has to say about such subjects. So I got some other ways of looking at this. The disciple is the person or the follower, while discipline is the active process of instruction, training, and practice that shapes them. You know, Jesus is always trying to shape us, right? He doesn't want to leave us the way we are. He finds us in a mess, and he says, come on, I want to help you through this. And so he's always trying to shape us through this discipline. And so, again, the process is the discipline. It's the training, practice, and correction needed to become proficient rather than just punishment. You guys recognize this runner? Anybody know him? Usain Bolt, fastest man alive, right? 100 meters. Imagine the discipline that it takes to be the fastest man alive. Modern context, Some people confuse it with punishment. In this context that we're talking about, discipline means the self-control and consistent application required to adopt the behavior of the teacher. Who would our teacher be? So there's an interdependence. One cannot truly be a disciple without undergoing discipline or training of the master, who is Jesus. So before we finish beating this dead horse, we're going to go one more. How discipline is related to discipleship. True discipline or true discipleship is impossible without discipline. You think about that? Discipline is the mechanism for a disciple to move from simply believing to actively practicing those beliefs. So we're going to change the way we think about discipline, at least for this morning. We're going to change it from being like this to being more like this. Okay. In both cases, I don't know if you can see the face of the little boy over here. It's a little bit blurry, but it appears to be screaming. Okay. I don't think he's enjoying the discipline at that point, right? He's getting some guidance that makes him quite uncomfortable. The other little boy doesn't look happy either, does he? But the difference is not in the boy, the learner. The distance. Speaking of discipline, let's all turn around. No. Let's not do that. The difference here is not in the learner. The difference is in the father, right? In one case, the father is distancing himself and saying, get farther away from me. Go to your room, right? In the other one, the father is saying, come on, I'm going to help you through this. Let's get this done. But in neither case is it fun for the learner, right? But the difference is the father, and that's so important to this lesson. Let's go to this text, Hebrews 12, just verses 5 and 6. And have you completely forgotten this word of encouragement that addresses you as a father addresses his son? It says, my son, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because the Lord disciplines who? The one he loves. And he chastens everyone he accepts as his son. Such an important part of the lesson on discipline that's provided in Hebrews comes from the whole relationship. Look at this that's highlighted in yellow. As a father addresses his son. Sometimes I think we get lost in church settings when our Father who art in heaven, right? We lose contact with crawling up in his lap and calling him daddy. You know what I mean? Just that closeness, that intimacy of a father and a son. He addresses him as my son. God calls him my son. He rebukes you. He makes it personal. The one he loves, the one he accepts as his son. We're God's children. Yeah, I know. I'm a grandpa. I had to get my family in there, right? So this is my family, and I'm very proud of them. My wife is in the middle with her parents on each side. My children and my grandchildren are all kind of intermingled, so they're not necessarily mixed the way they're separated there. But I'm proud of my family, and I think God is proud of us, right? You know, one thing that's really cool is I can tell you different characteristics and things about their personalities, each one individually, because each one means something special to me. God looks at us, and when he says, my son, my daughter, he knows you. He knows you personally. He knows you intimately. He knows the thoughts that go on in your head. He knows where your heart is. We are God's children. I want to tell you about this guy here. This guy here on the right is my dad, Billy Harold Deathridge. Born in 1928. He passed from this life in 2009. But he grew up in Texas, Aledo, Texas, on the west side of Fort Worth. Kind of a rural setting, right? It wasn't a big place back then. Matter of fact, it was removed from the city. Now it's kind of grown and become a part of the city. But Dad was from Aledo, Texas, and when he was a young man, he joined the United States Navy, and he went out to California, where he met my mom. You know what happens when guys meet girls? They get married, and they kind of settle near mom, right? So they settled near the mom. So in Southern California is where I was raised until I was a junior in high school. I remember periodically through the years we would get in the family automobile and we would travel across the southwest desert of Southern California, Arizona, New Mexico, through Texas till we got all the way to the middle of Texas. 3-day journey in a car. It takes a while. We would get there and people would introduce me as, and I'm going to try this in my Texas accent, this is Billy Harold's middle boy, right? Everybody introduced me as, this is Billy Harold's middle boy, because like you, I have 2 brothers. Of course, you're the old one, right? I'm the middle boy. And at first, I kind of had this idea that maybe I should say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not Billy Harold's middle boy. I have a name, you know. And then I thought about it. I'm proud to be Billy Harold's middle boy. Because Billy Harold worked in the earth-moving construction industry, and he worked in it so long, he did about everything. He operated heavy equipment, he did surveying work, he did compaction work, he did a lot of things, and people came to my dad from all over the place and said, hey, how do we do this? And Dad was able to tell him. Professionally, he was an expert. I'm proud to be the son of an expert. Even more important, while I was growing up, Dad was a deacon in the church. And that same work ethic applied to what he did in the church. And he was dedicated, and people called on him late hours of the night for help with this and that. And Dad would just spring into action and go help them. Later on, after I grew up and moved away, Dad became an elder in the church. He taught Bible classes. People everywhere liked my dad. And all of a sudden, being Billy Harold's middle boy wasn't such a bad thing, right? How much more should we be proud of the fact that we are the son and daughters of God, right? Just think about that contrast, how great he is, and yet he calls us his children. Not long ago, this statement came from one of the people on the Artemis II. Do you remember Artemis II? Left Earth, went around the moon to see the backside of the moon. I don't know what's so important about a backside of a moon. Does it look different than the front side of the moon? I don't know. But they got out there and they got into space, and this astronaut, Christina Cook, made this statement. What struck me wasn't necessarily just Earth. It was all the blackness around it. Think about that for a minute. As they're looking and they see the moon in the foreground and the Earth in the background, those were finite objects. But what she focused on was there was finite objects, but there was infinite blackness everywhere. You know, the same God that says, come sit in my lap, I'm your daddy, is the one who created all of that. Much greater than an earth-moving construction worker. This is the God who created earth and everything that we know, and so much more that we don't even know about. And he calls us his children. This fact cannot be mixed as we talk about this. I also saw this verse that reminded me of when she said this. By faith we understand that the universe was created by the word of God. Now we could stop right there, and that's sermon in itself, right? But so that what is seen was made out of things that are not visible. There is a connection between faith and discipline. We're going to get to that in just a moment. So we are God's children, which means he claims us as his own, which is pretty cool. He doesn't leave us alone, right? Jesus says, go into all the world, preach the gospel, and lo, I will be with you always. He cares for us, which reminds me of the verse where Jesus looks out at the crowd of people, says he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he allows us to call him our Father. Looks like it goes off the screen. Okay. He allows us to call him our Father. That's a pretty big thing. Going on, it says, endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as children, for what children are not disciplined by their father. If you're not disciplined, and everyone undergoes discipline, then you're not legitimate, not true sons and daughters at all. Moreover, we have all had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them for it. how much more should we submit to the Father of spirits and live? Again, I want to bring to your attention the highlighted words, his children. We are children. He's the Father, sons and daughters, fathers who disciplined us. He keeps drawing this analogy of this family and the relationship-based thing that we have going on with the Creator of the universe. How much more should we submit to the Father of spirits and live? If I submitted to my earthly father, how much more should I submit to him? Right? There's a word in that bottom sentence that I didn't highlight. Submit. That's an extremely important part of the whole discipline process. This is my granddaughter, Jenna Kate, from several years back. I call her Mutton Buster. You know what a Mutton Buster is? Anybody know what that is? Anybody hear of a rodeo? They have those things in Texas. So in Texas, they have these rodeos, and people climb on bulls and horses and things and ride them around and, yeehaw. But the thing with the Mutton Buster is they take little kids that are like 4 to 6 years old, put them on the back of a sheep, pow, let that sheep go running through the arena and see how long that kid can stay on there. That's my granddaughter. She's never actually done it, but she has that personality where she's not afraid of anything. As a matter of fact, I called her Mutton Buster from the first time she jumped off the back of a couch at me because of her lack of fear. And so she listened to that Mutton Buster term for a couple of years, and I guess she was about 4 years old, and she says, "Papa, what's a Mutton Buster?" And I said, "That's where you put a kid like you on a sheep and pat him, let him go and run." And she said, "Oh, does the sheep run fast?" I said, "Oh yeah, it'll run fast." And she said, "Okay, I'm ready." So this is the girl I'm talking about. I actually have more grandchildren, but I'm using her as an example this morning. I have 4 American grandchildren, 3 boys and the 1 girl. And I have 2 Chinese grandchildren, a male and female. I've had 1 wife. I'll let you guys figure that out and talk to me after services, okay? So the Mutton Buster, she's the one that she would climb up on the back of the sofa and jump through the air, and as she's airborne, she would say, "Catch me." So you don't have a whole lot of choice. You can either learn from the drop or catch her, right? I would be in the swimming pool, in the shallow end, with her older brother, teaching him how to swim, and she would intentionally go to the opposite end of the pool that was the deep end and say, "Catch me." So I would have to quickly swim to the other end and catch this little kid that's going to drown, right? That's the one. When she was born, I was in the hospital with her mother and my wife. Jenna Kate was born with underdeveloped lungs. I can't tell you what it's like. There's this emotional response that comes up even talking about it. When I think about she was born, and as soon as she came out of the womb, they had to hook her up to a bunch of equipment to keep her alive. They put her in this little thing that looked like a bread box. They called it an incubator. And they put her on a helicopter and flew her away, where she could go get the intensive care that she needed as a little baby girl. This happened to be a several-day event. It wasn't quick, where she spent the first few days of her life in a bread box in intensive care in a hospital. A lot of prayers went up. A lot of care was being provided. And in that process, she now runs track and cross country. And yeah, she enjoys it. Matter of fact, there it goes. There she is now. She's running today. And now this little girl who had these underdeveloped lungs that had to go through all the struggles and the trials can actually run 1,600 meters in less than 6 minutes. Not bad, huh? Not world record, but when you consider where she started from, that's pretty good. What do you think it took for her to do that? It took a lot of discipline. One of the things I'm really proud of her for is Jenna Kate leads prayer with her team. And so they pray at their events for safety, for God's guidance, for God to bless them, that they might represent Him well. And so she's excelling physically, she's excelling spiritually, but it's because of that tenacity, endurance, discipline that it took to get where she is. The question is, do we have enough faith in God to submit ourselves to His discipline in our lives? That whole submission thing. Because it really does take submission. How many parents do we have out here? Are your children always submissive to your discipline? Oh, good. It's not just an American thing. You know, if the children won't submit to it, they don't learn anything, right? I had a discussion with somebody about, if your child does something really wrong and you address that and you try to help them through that, and then you turn around and they do it again, you think, what are they thinking, right? I sure am glad I've never made a mistake twice. So Hebrews 12:10, it says, they disciplined us for a little while, talking about our earthly fathers. They disciplined us for a little while as they thought best. And I thought about that. When my kids were born, I expected there would be a short course or at least a book or two I could read. But I got a kid before I got a book. So I did the best that I knew how. And that's what our earthly fathers and mothers do. They do the best that they know how. But God disciplines us for our good. It's not out of his anger. It's not punishing because they enjoy watching punishment, right? And it's in order that we may share in his holiness. Hopefully this discipline does reshape us. It molds us. It makes us different so that we resemble our Father. If someone looked at that picture of my dad and said, hey, Sandy, you look like your dad, I would think that's a good thing. If somebody looked at my life and said, Sandy, you look like him, I would feel very complimented. Wouldn't you? That's the whole goal of the discipline, that we would be more like him. So how much time is required to be an Olympic 100-meter runner? I don't know. I never was one. I was a distance runner. I was one of those weird ones that liked cross country, okay? Olympic runners generally between 4 to 6 hours per week on the track in the gym, but actually when they're in the elite programs, which I would think Olympic programs probably are, 20 to 30 hours per week of total commitment. That's a lot of discipline, isn't it? I bet every single minute of it is fun. You think? Maybe not. Maybe some of that was a challenge to get up and try. I ran yesterday. Why do I have to get up and run again today? Right? Olympic runners spend years doing this to qualify for the Olympic team before they can get selected. So how much time does it take to complete the race? Less than 10 seconds. Years and years and years of hours per day devoted to this, so that at least for this 4 years, this is the shot I get. Less than 10 seconds. Usain Bolt, 9.58 seconds, 100 meters. What's my point? When God disciplines us, he knows the event is coming, right? He's getting us in shape because he knows the training that we need to be able to get through this next thing. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. To be trained by it, I have to submit to it. So it's a matter of submitting to what God has for us. Anybody recognize this? This is from right out here in the harbor. Just took this one. Home, where we're challenged to grow. The main points I want you to take away from this, and this one is not a small thing. We are children of the Creator. I'm more than Billy Harold's middle boy. I am a child of God. He disciplines us to help us grow to be like him. He wants us to be like him. Grace-filled, sharing our love with other people, thinking of others more than ourselves. That's the way he wants us to be. So he disciplines us to get us into that shape. Our question this morning, will we be submissive children? That's one of those things you don't answer once in life. It's like a daily thing. You have to get up. Okay, God, I want to submit to your will. It's me recognize he knows better what I need than what I do. Is it only an American thing, or is it people in New Zealand too that maybe think, I know what I need to do? This morning, we'll have a song here in just a moment, and I want to invite you, if you feel like you need some help with prayers from this group, if you want to have God on your side helping to shape and mold you and help you to be more submissive in the process, I'm sure people are here who would pray for you. Let's stand up and sing that song.